What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down what's really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. Lucid is up a very impressive 5.2%, 270 the low, 287 the high, and a good amount of volume for especially a Friday, 99.99 million, and then 109 is the average. Lucid is leading the EV sector, so Rivian is up 2.6, NIO 2.6, Tesla 1.3. So definitely good to see Lucid kind of leading for that. No official news from Lucid, no SEC filings. You are seeing kind of the market move higher because of this. So the Michigan consumer sentiment did come in a little bit lower than the forecast. This is kind of the fifth consecutive negative report. So now you are seeing the likelihood, not for June, but for July, for a rate cut, it did go up. So again, that's kind of a good thing. That is what the market is really yearning for right now. And of course, EV sector, very sensitive to interest rates, could really stand to benefit from that. Aside from that, though, a lot of articles coming out based on the latest 13Fs, what institutions didn't do, and whatever else. I think overall in Q1, because keep in mind all these 13Fs were during that time frame in Q1, you pretty much have a lot of big institutions increasing their position. One thing I do want to bring up, though, it was right over here. It was the dreaded Citadel that everyone hates, that seems to be very much against a lot of growth stocks just to short it, manipulate it. They did increase their common stock. They reduced their puts by 38.57%, and then they also increased their call options by 28.41%. A lot of kind of institutions did similar type of nature. So 𝗖𝗎𝗧𝗛 did increase their common stock by 62%. So big money definitely was buying. At the same time, you did also see some institutions selling based on all these reds. So they did liquidate some of their positions in Q1, but I think overall market is getting rather hyped up because of seeing all of this. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. One thing I do find rather interesting, especially with the negative ratings that have been coming out from Bank of America, you do have them reducing their call options by 95%, their puts by 92%, and then they increase their common stock by 1.35%. So definitely very interesting in that regard. But I think more importantly, what Lucid did, or at least an article that did come out that I feel is really pushing Lucid higher, is this. So Lucid Motors named official mobility partner of 2025 for the Geneva Open. So I'm sure some people might just read that and say, yeah, okay, good, cool stuff. But I think there's a lot more to it. So this goes to show Lucid's marketing is now expanding. They've never really done this type of thing outside of Saudi or North America. So this is a pretty big deal, I think, overall. But what they did also allude to in the Q1 earnings was a brand ambassador. So I know a lot of individuals, even myself included, would love to see Ronaldo as the brand ambassador. Probably not within Lucid's budget, unfortunately, but based on at least this step right here, it goes to show that they might be looking at this individual. So Novak, I'm not going to butcher his last name, but honestly, even though I don't follow tennis or anything, I know he's pretty much number one. So I think at the end of the day, Lucid, or maybe might have him as, or someone under the tennis umbrella, if you want to call it that, as a brand ambassador. So I don't know if anyone follows tennis aside from this Novak individual. Is there any others that would be fitting the criteria that maybe Lucid might want to do? But I think just based on what they mentioned for marketing, the timing of this, it goes to show that it's going to be some tennis individual that's going to be the brand ambassador. So let me know your viewpoint on that in the comments below. The $1 million question is, when exactly Lucid is going to disclose this? I'm not really sure. Logically, this type of news, this has been kind of my pet peeve with Lucid, is that they go through these kind of waves. They put out a lot of news and then they just go silent. So this is definitely, in my opinion at least, newsworthy for them to actually put out, because the last news that they did put out was on May the 8th, just saying that they are opening up studios, which I think isn't really relevant, or it is relevant, but it's not. I feel like this right here is a lot better news in my opinion, unless they're trying to keep it like silent and all that fun stuff. But when it comes down to shorts, they are returning 722,000 shares today. 28.3% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 349.07 million shares. So definitely good to see shorts returning today. Aside from that, 1.43 million in calls for options, 458,000 in puts. 41% of all the options being done today are bullish in nature, and you see a lot of big outliers. So big money still definitely paying attention to Lucid through options, and it's not really any crazy volume for the options. Common stock, it's definitely good for a Friday, but for options, 1.8 million in overall premiums. Average seems to be roughly around 2.5. So a little bit on the low end, but nothing really crazy. Based on the bulls, you see a consensus for it to be above 3. Based on the bears, you are seeing a consensus for it to be sub 250. Elliott Wave Technicals does project, as long as it is able to stay above this pivot point, it is anticipated to hit that 302. So pretty much matching with that, the common stock for that. So let me know your viewpoint. I'm sure a lot of people who did buy in kind of around that $2 range to 250, you'll be really happy to see 302, but I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. If it is able to get above that, then you'll definitely see a lot of big things coming. So I'll go over the technicals and whatever else. But with today being Friday, just take note of the open interest. So you do have 29,000 at that 250, 55,000 at that 3. It would have been really nice to see it close above 3 today, but still this 2.9 million, or sorry, 29,000, Jesus, I can't even talk today. So 29,000 works out to be 2.9 million shares. That's what does need to be covered by market makers and all the other fun jazz. So meaning you might see a nice bump up come Monday. So stay tuned for my video over the weekend. I'll go over all the expectations, including what this might do to the stock price and whatever else. But these are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. And again, for those of you that watch my videos, I like to see where volume comes from. And this legitimately does show that big money is buying Lucid. Complete opposite was yesterday, but that's because we did have somewhat good data. Today we had negative data, so we're back at that 2024 kind of thing where we want inverse, which is really stupid if you ask me, but nonetheless, big money is buying up Lucid, so good to see. These are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool, so as per usual, pretty popular. So first thing, we did have a couple big ones, so kind of something to take note of. 2.3 million, 2.3 million, 850,000 a piece for shares. So definitely that is, and based on the timing, it goes to show that it's obviously the same entity. So someone did buy a good amount of shares. So I don't know. Big money is still buying behind the scenes. So definitely something to keep in mind for those of you that like to follow what big money is doing. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. But right now with at 284, trading between this R3 and this R2. So another kind of point signaling $3. So 301 is going to be that next strong target. Then 278 will be that next strong support. So Lucid is definitely building some pretty good momentum behind the scenes. Aside from all that though, on the actual chart itself, so right now it is at 283, I believe, or 284. So it is officially above that 200-day moving average. And this is something I did state was going to be a very, very big deal for Lucid. So if it is able to close above that 280 mark, then you could see a very nice push higher. I'm not going to hear or kind of say like this is going to be starting a mother of all short squeeze type of scenario. I think Lucid would really need a good kick-ass catalyst to really prompt that. But on a technical standpoint, at least it should really move higher. So yeah, I think big things might be coming for Lucid. So let me know your viewpoint on that. As a disclaimer, as I've also shared over the last couple of videos, the only negative I do want to bring up is the fact that it is overbought, as well as pretty much 90% of the market. So the first sign of weakness, so let's say over the weekend there's some escalation, there's some war, some negative news or something like that, then you could see a little bit more of a consolidated pullback. But Lucid does have a lot of good support levels. So you have this right here, that 100-day moving average sitting at 263. You also have that 50-day moving average sitting at 240. So Lucid is pretty well positioned to really move higher from here. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Are you buying the dip, or have you been buying the dip? Are you selling? What's your general thoughts? And do you think $3 is realistic, or do you think that's just the first step? Keep in mind, once those targets are hit, then the Elliott wave technicals will kind of adjust, and most likely I would anticipate it to be roughly between that 350 to 360 being the next target. But what do I know in life? So hopefully everyone has a good weekend. Let me know your thoughts. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon and give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been exactly on point and bangers. Even many of the ones I did bring out earlier today about Virgin Galactic, it is up like 80% today. That was listed as a buy alongside many others. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And then with all that, appreciate all of you watching.